Alright, so it's going to start with your warm-up. So it says write the inequality and solve 5 more than twice the number is at least 21. So we have 5 more than twice the number, so that's going to be our 2x is at least. So if you remember your inequalities, at least, that means it is going to be greater than or equal to 21. You have your keyword than. Than means flip. Okay, so we have 2x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 21. And we're going to go ahead and just solve for x. So you're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Subtract 5 over here. You have 2x is greater than or equal to 21 minus 5 is 16. Divide both sides by 2. You end up getting x is greater than or equal to 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then number 2, it says the sides of a triangle have lengths in the ratio of 4 to 5 to 5. The perimeter of the triangle is 70 inches. Find the lengths of each side of the triangle. Complete the ratio box, then solve. So this is the same thing as when we have our x's and our numbers and our total sum. Okay, so our ratios are 4 to 5 to 5. So same thing over here. Our ratios 4x, 5x, and 5x. So when we add all those up, we end up getting 14x. Over here, when we add these up, we get 14x. And it tells you your perimeter is 70 inches, is means equals. 70 is means equals, and we have 70. So you have a simple one-step equation. 14x is equal to 70. Divide both sides by 14. So in your calculator, you'll just type in 70 divided by 14, and you get 5. So over here, we're just going to write that x is equal to 5. And once you know that, you just plug it back in. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. And again, 5 times 5 is 25. Add all those up, you get 70. Same thing here where it has your number. So we'll have 20, 25, and 25. So it says find the lengths of each side of the triangle. Our lengths would be 20, 25, and 25. Alright, so today's notes, you should get, it says at the very top, slope day 3 notes. Go ahead and put today's date at the very top of this, which today is the 17th. And so this is going to be Monday's notes. It's the same stuff that you learned last week. Just getting into just do a couple more examples. So it says at the very top, when connecting 2 points, there is exactly one straight line that can be drawn through both. Today, you'll be given the coordinates of 2 points. Your task will be to find information about the line through these points, including slope, its y-intercept, and the coordinates of the other points that lie on the line. So just a refresher, remember if you have lines and you have to decide if it's positive or negative slope, you can write your name on the line. If it goes up, it's positive. So both of these here would be positive, and if it goes down, it's going to be negative. Alright, so let's just go ahead and get right into your examples. So number 1, you have the point 2, 2 and negative 1, 5. It says plot the points on the coordinate grid, draw the line that passes through them. So over here I'm going to plot my points. So we have 2, 2, and we have negative 1, 5. Alright, before I go to the next question, I'm going to go ahead and find my slope. Remember when you have a graph, we do a rise over run. So I'm going to see, I'm not going up, I'm actually going down 1, 2, 3. So I'm putting negative 3 since I went down, and I went to the right 1, 2, 3. Negative 3 divided by 3 is just negative 1. So this reduces to negative 1, which means all I have to do is go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and you're going to keep going until you cannot go anymore. So we're going to go ahead and connect our dots. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . And now we're going to answer our questions. So plot the points on the coordinate grid, draw the line that passes through them. We already did that. It says as the x values increase, what happens to the y values? So as my x values increase, as I go to the right, my y values, as you can see, are going down. So we're going to put here, they decrease. It says find the slope of the line. We already did that with our rise over run up here. So my slope is just -1. Letter D says mark and label 3 other points on the line and record the x and y values for the points in an organized table. So they give us our table here. We're going to use the same numbers we did last week. So we'll do -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So -1 would be at 5. 0 is at 4. Then 3, 2, and 1. The next question says, does the pattern in your table confirm the slope you calculated in part C, and how so? So what we're going to do here, okay, so remember table is your rise over run. When you find the slope, or sorry, graph is your rise over run. When you do your table, we're going to do our change in y over change in x. So we're going to do our little arrows, just like last week. And we're going to see what we're going up by. So for my x's, we're going up by 1, so I'm going to put +1, +1, +1, and +1. And my y's are going down, so we're going to put -1, -1, -1, -1. So here, for where it says, does the pattern in your table confirm your slope? We're going to put m is equal to our change in y over change in x. Okay, so make sure you're very careful when you read this. Y is at the bottom, so my change in y here is -1, and my change in x is a +1. So change in y is -1 divided by a +1, and again that reduces to -1. So does the pattern in your table confirm what you calculated in part C? Yes, it does. Where it says how, that would be this right here, using change in y over change in x. It says use the graph or the table to find the y-intercept. Okay, so there's 2 ways you can do this. You can look here at your y-axis and look at where it crosses, which is this point right here. Or you can look at your table. Remember, your y-intercept always starts with x being 0. So both of these show that your y-intercept is at 0, 4. So we're going to write this as 0, 4. And the last thing you have to do is write the equation of the line. So if you remember, our equation is y equals mx plus b. We know our slope is -1, so y equals -1, and then we have x. B is your y-intercept. Our y-intercept is a +4. Another way that you can write this, and you're going to see it on your test, is y equals -x plus 4, because -1 is your invisible number. All right, example number 2. It gives us the 2 points, 2, 3, and -1, -3. So I'm going to plot my points, 2, 3, and -1, -3. So I'm going to go ahead and do my slope, which is going to be rise over run. So I'm going to count how many I go up. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my run is 1, 2, 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So what this means is I'm just going to go up 2 and over 1. Up 2 and over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 and over 1. To finish my graph on the other side, since I went up and to the right, I'm going to go down 2 and to the left 1. And I can only do that once. I'm going to go ahead and connect my dots. And now we're going to answer our questions. So plot the points and draw the line that passes through them. We already did that. As the x value increases, what happens to the y value? So as my x gets bigger, my y values also increase. So we're going to put the increase. Find the slope of the line. Well, we already did that with our rise over run, and we got 2. So we're going to put m is equal to 2. Mark and label 3 other points on the line and record the x and y values for the points in an organized table. Again, we're going to use our points, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead and fill in your y values looking from your graph. So you should get negative 3, negative 1, 1, 3, and 5. So it says, does the pattern in your table confirm the slope you calculated in part C, and how? So again, we're going to do m is equal to, since we have a table, you do change in y over change in x. So we're going to go ahead and find what we're going up by with the x's and what we're going up by in our y's. So my x's again are just going up by ones. And my y's here, if you look, negative 3 plus what gives you negative 1. Negative 1 plus what gives you 1. What do I add to 1 to get to 3? And what do I add to 3 to get to 5? And that would just be adding 2. So my change in y here is 2. Change in x is 1. So my slope, we'll put change in y is 2 over my change in x, which is 1. 2 divided by 1 is just 2. So again, that slope matches what we have up here for our rise over run. So does it match? Yes, it does. Last thing you have to do is find your y-intercept. There's two ways again you can find the y-intercept. You can look where it crosses the y-axis, which is at this order pair 0, negative 1. Or you can look at your table when your x value is 0, and again you have it at 0, negative 1. Write the equation in line. So remember your formula is y equals mx plus b. So we'll have y equals, m is my slope, we wrote that down twice. It was 2 and 2, so 2x. B is your y-intercept, it's a negative 1, so minus 1. Alright, example number 3. We have the points, let's see, 3, 4, and 1, 4. So over here I'm going to plot 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 4. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this one is a special case because if we were trying to draw a line that connects these 2 points, it's just going to be this line right here. It's going to go straight across right through these 2 points. There's no rise and there's no running on here. So the next one, it says as the x values increase, what happens to your y values? So as your x values increase, your y values just stay the same. So I'll put here they stay the same. Now, the slope of any line that looks like this is always, 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 always going to be 0. And a good way that I tell y'all to remember this is if you ever seen like on TV, those little heart monitors they have on like the patients, and then their heart does a little and then goes like that. The reason why you have your flat line like this is because their heart rate is going to be 0. So anytime you have just a flat line just like this, think of your little heart monitor that does your little flat line right here, and that's because their heart has stopped, their slope is going to be 0. Another way that you can do that to find that your slope is going to be 0 is looking at your table. So again, we'll pick our x values, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And our y value doesn't change at all. Any point on here at negative 1, at 0, 1, 2, or 3, your y value for all these points are going to be 4. So here, when it says, does the pattern in your table confirm the slope you calculate in part C and how, we're still going to do our change in y over change in x. So my x's are going up by 1s again. And if you look at your y values, they're not going up at all. There's 0 change in between these. Nothing at all. So my change in x is going to be 1, and my change in y is 0. So when I do change in y over change in x, my change in y is 0, my change in x is 1, and if you put that in the calculator, 0 divided by 1, you're just going to get 0. So my slope here is 0. So does the pattern match what we have in our graph? Yes, it does. And the how part is this right here, your change in y over change in x. Last part is to find your y-intercept. Again, 2 ways you can do it. You can look right here at your graph, and you see that this is going to be 0, 4. Or you can look at your table and see right here that this is also 0, 4. So my y-intercept is 0, 4. Now here, it's the last one. It says write the equation in your line. Y equals mx plus b. If you were to fill this in, we have y equals, okay, your slope is 0 and you're timesing that by x plus b, which is my y-intercept, and that's 4. But anytime you multiply anything by 0, you're just going to get 0. So this pretty much cancels out and your equation is just y equals 4. And if you always, a good way to double check is you can type in the calculator y equals 4. And when you graph it, it should look like the graph that we have. So it's just a straight line right across, and it goes through the y-axis at 4. So if it doesn't match up, then you need to make sure that you have your slope is 0. Alright, next page. The very top, it says, how can you use the slope of a line to determine whether the line slants upward from right to left, slants downward from left to right, is vertical, or is horizontal? If it is an upward line, your slope is going to be positive. If it's downward, your slope is negative. And if it's horizontal, your slope is just going to be 0. We have one more special case that we're going to go over, and then we're going to write some equations just using the tables, and then we're done. So with this is your second special case. They give us 2 points, negative 2, 3. So negative 2, 1, 2, 3. And negative 2, 0. Negative 1, negative 2, 0. Okay, if I want to draw a line through these 2 points, it's just going to be straight up and down. It says, what do you notice about the x values? So my x values here, if you notice, it doesn't change at all. So my x values, they are the same. It says find the slope of the line. Okay, so if it's just straight up and down, the slope of this line is going to be called undefined. So we're going to put m equals undefined. And I'm going to show you why in just a second with our table why it comes out to be undefined. Okay, so we're going to do our table again. This time though, our x's, they don't change. So my x value is right here at negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 2, negative 2, negative 2, negative 2, and negative 2. What does change is our y values. So it doesn't matter which ones you pick. So we can do negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And now when we answer this next one, we're going to do our change in x and our change in y. So this time though, our x's, they don't change at all. So the difference between these numbers is just 0 all the way through. Our change in y's though are going up by 1s. So it says, does the pattern in your table confirm the slope you calculate in part C, and how? So what we're going to do is we're going to do, again, change in y over change in x. Our change in y is a positive 1. Our change in x is 0. So what this says is you're going to do 1 divided by 0. If you type that into your calculator, if we did 1 divided by 0, it's going to come up with an error, and it's going to say you can't divide by 0. So you need to make sure you understand the difference between 0 divided by 1 is 0, but when you do 1 divided by 0, it's an error. You can't divide by 0. So here, your slope is going to be undefined. The reason that is it tells you right here, recall that a vertical line is not a function. Your x's repeat, it's not a function. Therefore, this line has no slope. Since the line has no slope, the equation does not have a y variable. So your equation for this line is just going to be x equals, notice it's not even y, it's x equals wherever you cross the x-axis. We cross at negative 2, so x is equal to negative 2. Alright, last little part that you have to do is find this slope, your y-intercept equation from your table. So it says complete the table, then find the slope, y-intercept, and write the equation of the line. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do our little changes here so that we can see what I need to go up by to complete my table. And I'm also going to do it for my y's. Okay, so if I look at my x's, I'm just going up by ones. So if you see a negative 1 plus 1, that's just going to give us 0. 0 plus 1 is just going to give us 1. For my y's, okay, what we're going up by here is 3's. So I'm going to put plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, all the way across. So 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11. And that's how you're going to complete your table. Okay, first part, we had to find our slope. So I'm going to write down here, m is equal to change in y over change in x. Notice your y's all the way across were going up by 3's. Your x all the way across was going up by 1's. 3 divided by 1 is just 3, so my slope here is 3. Your y-intercept, okay, make sure you write that letter b underneath it so that you remember that that's the variable that we use for y-intercept. Okay, all it is when x is 0, what is your y value? So you can look right here. When x was 0, my y value is 8. And the last one is your equation. So remember y equals mx plus b. And we're just going to plug in our slope and our y-intercept. So we have y equals, we know m, that was our slope over here, which is 3. X plus b, b is my y-intercept, which is just 8. Alright, last page. Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead and find our slope. We're going to do our change in our x's and change in our y's. So my x's are going up by 1's. And my y's, if you notice, are going down by 2. So I'm putting a minus 2 here. So my slope, okay, out to the side I'm going to write change in y over change in x. So my change in y is a negative 2. Change in x is 1. So that's just going to give us negative 2. Now the y-intercept, that's when x is 0. That's when you're going to put your x is 0. You got to find the y value. Well, here it doesn't show us when x is 0. So I'm going to write 0 right here above it. Okay, because if I was adding 1, I just got to go backwards. Here, if I'm subtracting 2, I need to go backwards, which means I have to add 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. So right here, my y-intercept would be 0, 6. Again, your equation's y equals mx plus b. Okay, so you're just plugging in the slope and you're plugging in the y-intercept, and we have both of those right here. So y equals negative 2x plus 6. Okay, next one we have, again, do our change in y and change in x. So do my little arrows up here. My y's are going up by 2's. Or sorry, those are my x's are going up by 2's. And my y's are going up by 4's. So over here to the side, I'll do change in y over change in x. Y's are going up by 4's. X's are going up by 2's. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. So my slope is 2. Y-intercept, you always start with 0. I don't have x here at my 0, so I'm going to have to go backwards. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards to 0. Now notice though, every single time that I go up by 2's, I'm going up by 4. So if I'm only going to go backwards 1, I need to do half of 4, which is 2. So I'm going to go backwards 2. So 1 minus 2. So if you do 1 minus 2, you're just going to get negative 1. So here we'll have y equals, again it's mx plus b, so 2x minus 1. All right, number 9. So again, we're going to do our change in x and our change in y. Change in x is going up by 2's. Change in y's are going up just by 1's. So if I want to do my slope, m is equal to change in y over change in x. My y is 1, my change in x is 2. So that's just going to give me 1/2. My y-intercept, I have to go backwards. So if I go backwards 2, they'll get me 2. I gotta go backwards one more time to get me 2 minus 2 is 0. So I'm just going backwards. So that means here if I'm adding 1, I'm going to have to subtract 1. So this is going to give me negative 2. Subtract 1, it's going to give me a negative 3. So my y-intercept here is 0, negative 3. So y equals mx plus b. My slope is 1/2. You put your x. B is negative 3, so minus 3. Number 10, again, we're going to do our change in x and our change in y. My x's are going up by a 1, then it went up by 2, then it goes up by 3, then it goes back up by 2. My change in y's, it went minus 1, then minus 2, minus 3, and then minus 2. So this one is a little bit different. What I'm going to do though right here is write out change in y over change in x. And it doesn't matter what you pick. So let's say I pick this first part. My change in y is a negative 1. My change in x, that's a positive 1. So negative 1 over 1 is just negative 1. You can pick any of it. Let me pick the 3's right here. So if I did it again, change in y over change in x. My change in y was a negative 3. My change in x is 3. And you may be thinking, well, those are different numbers, but negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. And if you want to check it again, change in y over change in x, and you look, you have change in y is negative 2 and negative 2. Your change in x is both positive 2. So negative 2 divided by 2 also gets you negative 1. So no matter which ones you pick, your change in y over change in x is going to reduce to negative 1, so your slope is negative 1. Y-intercept, I need to go back 1 to get 0, which means I'm going to have to go back 1. And since I was subtracting 1 here, I'm going to do the opposite, which means I'm going to add 1 and I'm going to get 2. So my y-intercept here is 0, 2. So my equation is y equals negative 1x plus 2. Okay, remember though that 1 is your invisible number, so this is the same thing as y equals negative x plus 2. And the last part that we have to do is just 3 graphs, and these I think are the easiest ones. First is my slope. I'm going to put m equals rise over run because we have a graph. You have your 2 points. So I went down 1, 2. So since I went down, I'm putting a negative. And I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, if you're not sure how that reduces, you can type it in the calculator. You can type in negative 2 divided by 6. And anytime you want to reduce a fraction, hit the math key right underneath alpha. So math, enter, enter, comes out to negative 1/3. So this reduces to negative 1/3. Y-intercept, okay, it's where I cross the y-axis. That's this point right here. If I write that out, that'd be 0, comma, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So y-intercept is 0, negative 4. And once you know those two pieces, because this is your m and that's your b, you just plug it into the equation y equals mx plus b. So I have y equals, my slope was negative 1/3, x, y-intercept is negative 4, so minus 4. Okay, number 12, again, m is equal to rise over run. So I'm going to draw my little, I call them Pac-Man lines, just straight up and down to connect them. Helps me do my little bunny hops. So my rise is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 8 over 4. Again, you can always use your calculator if you want to. 8 divided by 4. You can always hit math and enter and it'll reduce it. And that just comes out to 2. So this is just equal to 2. My slope is just going to be 2. Y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. That's this point, let's see, right here. It's where my graph crosses the y-axis. And that's at 0, comma, 1, 2, 3. Y-intercept 0, 3. So my equation here is y equals, my slope is 2, x, and then I have plus 3. So remember, slope is your m, y-intercept's the b. You just plug it right into this equation, m and b. All right, last one. So this one, again, remember your little heart rate thing that goes like this, and it's flat lines because your slope here is 0. So my slope here is just 0. Y-intercept's where it crosses the y-axis. It crosses at this point, which would be 0, comma, -1, -2. So when I plug this in, okay, your equation is y equals, you have no slope, so when you look at y equals mx plus b, since my slope is 0, that completely is gone. Even with my x, that's all gone. All I have left is just my y-intercept, so y equals -2. And again, a way you can check this, go to y equals, type in the equation, y equals -2. There's not an x, nothing in there, hit graph. Straight line that goes right here through -2 on your y-axis. Check your graph. You have a straight line that goes right here through -2. So those are the notes for today. The next thing you should be getting is this assignment. This is your homework packet that you're going to do. It is due on Friday. So go ahead and get started on that. Do as much as you can. And I will be here tomorrow after school if you need help with any of this. So look at your notes.